All right, we're live. You know what I mean? I know it said like 69 minutes or whatever when you guys hopped on, but I just put that there because, it's like a safety net just in case we don't start on time. We have a safety net. But now we're here. We're live. Dan is here. And that was one of the craziest events because every fight ended in a finish, Dan. Do you enjoy those types of events, finish after finish after finish? Or do you like fights that last for 15 minutes and they're grueling and tough to watch?
Nah, it just depends how it plays out. Like I enjoy just a fight you're able to follow. Like for mine, my favorite fight was the Geoff Neal versus Vicente Luque fight. Like when it's like high level fighting when like two fighters have to constantly adjust, and we saw that. Like Geoff Neal, Vicente Luque was pressuring in. Geoff Neal was like intercepting him with a straight left hand, which he was just walking onto. So he made a good adjustment in the second round by taking that half a step back and then fighting from kicking range, which essentially takes away that intercept left hand that kept catching him. Then obviously Geoff Neal started coming forward with it and pressuring a bit more in the third round. So it's like an adjustment every round, and it's like a fight that you can follow too. Like it's like easy to follow. Like those kind of fights entertain me anyway. Like the main event, they're just kind of like just a bit messy at times. Like they're good, don't get me wrong. Like don't get me wrong, like it's good to watch, but nothing keeps me more entertained where like there's two high level guys like constantly having to adjust. Like but like messy fights, like good to watch, and your average Joe like sits there and he's clapping his hands and stuff like that. But yeah, they don't really keep me as like hooked into the TV. Is that the same as like commentating when you're like commentating a fight and it's like a good fight and it's back and forth and there's adjustments and it's easy to sit there when it's high level and like read the two fighters. When it's like just two guys trying to hit each other, it's actually quite hard to commentate it because you're like, how do you explain it? Like it's just two blokes. Like the main event is just two blokes kind of trying to punch each other in the head. Like there's not much you can say about it. Like it is what it is, and you could hear Santos's corner saying less bar brawling and more takedowns.
For real, I think that's exactly what he said, right? You're not in a bar fight. You're in a cage.
And
you're competing.
And at points it looked like it. I've seen more technical bar fights in a couple of those rounds. Like, but it's good to watch. Like, if you're an average fan, it's quite good to watch, right? Like two guys swinging, like if they can relate to that, Everyone's seen a bar fight once or twice in their life,
and probably been in a few. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is, right?
Probably.
That's part of life. Like, you need to at least get into one bar fight as an adult to be an adult, right? Like, that's the rules that they made.
That's the rules they made.
That's the rules.
I've definitely been in a fair few more than one, so I think I've got enough on my tally, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, when you look at Santos, right, and if you look at his performances throughout the years, the reason we love him and the way he fights is because he gets into those bar brawl type of fights from time to time. You know what I mean? And that's what he's known for. That's what excites us. That's what gets the fans paying attention. And, I think in this camp, most likely that's what they told Santos, like, hey, you can't get caught up in those bar brawls. And that's what the corner advice was, the same exact thing, to remind him. And then he switched it up, right? Is that when he switched it up to get the takedowns? That was a
and then I just feel like he just went overboard. Like the takedowns could have been timed a bit better. Like he just kind of started hitting the spam button, right? Like he was just spamming shots. And it's like, maybe if that was like the fifth round and that's like all you had left as an option, that would probably be a better option. But like, there was still 3 rounds to go. Like it was a little bit early to lose your composure like that and just start like spamming the shots and wasting energy on like failed takedowns. Like if he would have kind of calculated that a bit more, like timed those takedowns a little bit better, he probably would have had. No, like from mine watching the finish, like he purely just got finished because he like gassed out, right? Like he just
Yeah.
his body, and I'm not saying you can't like recover from that, but it's credit to Jamahal Hill for turning up the pace at the right time. Like he sensed that Santos had kind of hit a wall and he was trying to fight his way through it, or just needed who knows how long, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds of like some ground time just to get his wind back and recover and push through that wall. But Jamahal Hill like timed it perfectly and just put the pace on. But yeah, to mine, like it's not like he was hurt so bad like his body shut down. His just like, yeah, it's hard to understand unless you've been in that exact situation where like I've been in fights like very early in my career where like holding your hands up hurts more than getting punched in the face. Like that was like my second or third fight like I ever had, and I remember being in there and I remember the feeling of being that exhausted where the other guy's like hitting you and you're just like, your corner's screaming at you like, put your hands up, put your hands up, and you're just like, oh, like it feels like you've got like a, you know, you're holding like a boulder,
Like the strongman,
so
competition.
heavy, like it's so, I'm like, it's too heavy, and you're just like, this hurts so much. You put them down, and the guy keeps hitting you in the head, and you're like, this is actually not that bad. Like I can live with this. Like this is. So it's hard to have actually been there. You know what I mean? Like if you've never been so tired in your life that getting punched in the face hurts less more than doing this, like it's very hard to relate to how Santos was feeling at that moment.
That's kind of funny because like last Friday, I went to sparring, right? And then the second round of sparring, my shoulders were just blasted. Like they just weren't working anymore. My hands would not go up because, you know, like when you put your hands up, your shoulders are pretty much carrying all the brunt of the weight, right? So when I put my hands up, I'm just like, what the hell's going on? They just come back down, and I'm just getting lit up. Like, because my hands, like, rest of my body works. It's just my hands won't go up because my shoulders are just fucking blasted. Like,
bro, it actually just happens sometimes, like in training. Like something will just be, whether you did like a workout earlier in the week or something happened or injury or anything like that. But it actually just, like, you've heard fighters say it, like, man, I just got in the ring and my legs weren't there. You know what I mean? Like, it genuinely happens. And it's not till you like actually step in the ring for like something you've been training your whole life for, and you're like, I can't feel my legs. Like this is not a strong start. Or like that exact moment where it's all right in training. Like I'll go to sparring and I'll just be like, oh man, my left shoulder's a bit, I might have to switch southpaw. Like when you're a bit more experienced, it'll make it easier. But when you're young and you go out to fight and you're just like, whoa, I can't hold my hands up. Or like, man, my legs are shot. Before the fights even started, like you see it in guys like early fights, and I can see it because I've been in those exact situations. That's why I can like read their faces. Like, you know, the guys that have like their first fight or second fight and they waste a ton of energy on the walkout, and you see them like high-fiving their mates and they're dancing and stuff like that. They hop in there, like I'm just standing there smiling because I'm like, yeah, I know what's about to happen. The guy will get in the ring, the bloke will get in the ring, jump through the ropes, and he just gives me this look. He just looks over like, and he's like, it's a look, and he's like, I'm already exhausted. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, like, yeah, I know, but there's only one way you're going to learn this lesson. I could tell you 1,000 times till I'm blue in the face, or you could actually go out there and learn it for yourself. So it's like, don't, like, I always tell guys, however fit you think you are, like, oh man, I could go, 3 2-minute rounds or 3 3-minute rounds. Like, however fit you are, like, the moment you step a foot in that cage or the moment your legs go through those ropes, like, instantly you've got 1/5. You've got 20% of the energy you thought you had. So if you thought you could go 3 3-minute rounds, like you step in those ropes, like you can go like a minute and a half, and you know what I mean. So that's why I tell guys, like, you need to get like 4 or 5 times as fit as you think you need to be for that. You know what I mean? If you can do 5 rounds in training, you need to be able to do 20 rounds, 30 rounds in training. Like, it's funny, man. It's funny how that cage works. Like like the adrenaline, the lights, the pressure, like it zaps. It zaps 80% straight out of you, straight out of your arms, straight out of your legs, straight out of your gas tank. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy how it works like that.
Yeah, it just seems like Santos has, after that double knee surgery that he had, it just hasn't been the same for him. You know what I mean? Like, he's suffering from the Jon Jones curse. If you look at the last 4 opponents Jon Jones beat, Gustafsson, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and Dominic Reyes, they haven't had very good luck after fighting Jon Jones. You know what I mean? They've had, none of them have won the title, and I don't even think none of them have fought for the title. Oh, Reyes. Yeah, Reyes. Did Reyes fight for the? No, he fought Jones for the title. Yeah, so none of them fought for the title since. They just had Jon Jones. That's what I call it, the Jon Jones curse. You know me, I like to blame Jon Jones for everything. Because someone said that. You want to blame John. Because I blame Jon Jones for the sponsorships, you know what I mean? Like the big sponsorships not coming to MMA fighters anymore. And, people say shit about that. And
he really did fuck up Nike.
That's why Nike don't want to fuck with the UFC.
Really tanked Nike with that pregnant chick thing.
Yeah, that was bad. Anyways, yeah. So what do you do with Hill, man? Hill definitely has a lot of potential, but some holes in this fight, right?
He's just young, man. Like what? Yeah. He was like 10-1 coming into like 11 pro fights is like crazy. Like I got in the UFC with the 11 pro fights. Like for him to be main eventing with 11 pro fights is crazy. It's crazy. It's like very cool to see. But yeah, it's like no going back. I don't like from the skills I've seen, like, and Santos is a top quality fighter, and I feel like he handled that quite comfortably. The only real trouble he was in when Santos started just rapid fire shooting, but he didn't like 100% defend every takedown just because he knew that like Santos was using too much energy, and he knew it was like that he had composure to know that it was a 5-round fight and Santos couldn't keep it up. Like he just knew that. He knew that Santos couldn't keep that up for 3 rounds, and he couldn't. We saw that he spanned the takedowns with that 18 takedown attempts in a round. You just can't do that, especially a guy that's not like a pure wrestler. You know what I mean? Santos has been a striker for predominantly his entire career. Like for I understand you can do like a training camp where you're just doing a lot of takedowns and getting a lot of reps shooting takedowns, but it's not the same as having done it since you were a little kid throughout your whole life. Like it's very easy for a wrestler to fall back on that. It's very easy to fall back on what you know, and as soon as you're in a fight and you like we saw it when he was really gassed, he went back into bar brawl mode because you stick to what you know. When you start hitting the wall and you get cornered and you get exhausted, you stick to what's worked for you for most of your life, and that's big punches for Santos.
Yeah, Santos, and with Hill, man, I know people want to catapult him up and put him against someone with a big name, someone that is probably fought for the title or is about to fight for the title or something. They're going to try to push Hill. I still think he's pretty raw. I still think he needs a couple more fights, you know what I mean, against top 10 guys, not like a title eliminator or anything like that. But, if they give it to him, he's going to take it and take his chances because that's what you do as a fighter. But
yeah, there's like pros and cons for the position. Like I understand what you're saying, like a couple more fights to but what really could he add to his game? It's pros and cons because obviously you have like another 2 fights to build up, like a guy down the rankings or even like equal in the rankings. You're just showing more of your cards. You know what I mean? Like you're showing more of your game. You're spending more time. You're showing your tendencies. And the reality of it is like, that's what's dangerous when you get to like the top echelon in the sport is everyone knows your cards. Everyone knows your tendencies. So like the less he can show people, it might actually be more advantageous towards him. That like less people know his tendencies. So it's like move into that title shot realm or get into those big fights and earn some big paychecks before he really starts showing people all of his cards. So I get it, a couple more fights to work on things, but he might be showing his cards. I think there's pros and cons to both routes.
Ahead of the fight, I guess people were body shaming him because he doesn't look like a typical
he's not
jacked.
But he's not even in like bad shape. You know what I mean? Like I saw it. People are taking the absolute mick. I don't get it. Like as a fighter, and even myself, like I'm never dieting or like eating or doing an exercise or putting my energy to be like, oh man, I'm gonna look good on the poster for this. Like it never goes through my head. Like you just like eat the food to make the weight, do the training to get fit for the fight, and you just look like how you look like. Like if that's what he looks like, then who actually gives a shit? Like GSP is this is years ago. I'm talking a decade ago. I read an article for GSP, and he's like, yeah, like I lift weights sometimes like out of camp and stuff, but I know what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it to look good on the poster so I can sell some tickets. Like I'm not doing it to make myself don't convince yourself that you're doing it to make yourself a better fighter. Like if I do a little bit of bench press and a few bicep curls, it's to look good on the poster. Like don't get me wrong. Like I'm not I'm doing it to sell tickets. I'm not doing bicep curls to become the best fighter in the world. You know what I mean? So if Jamahal Hill doesn't want to waste the time and energy in doing that, then like more power to him.
Yeah, that's great. Well, there's no typical looking fighter. There isn't. Like back in the day, the typical looking fighter had a beer belly and just went into the bar. Like we go back to the bar
Still
bros.
does. You go to like Tyson Fury, Fatal. Like I come around when Fatal was the GOAT. Like everyone looked at Fatal as like the baddest dude in the world, and he's just like this podgy Russian dude who's like bald and doesn't ever smile. Like it's not. Like it's not. It just isn't what you like. Your average person thinks it is. Like they look at a bodybuilder and they think, man, that guy is. But like the reality of the situation is like you need some fat on your body to to pad when you're in a fight. Like you need some fat in between those muscles to you know what I mean? When you're dry and shaped and ripped, like it hurts when you get hit, trust me. Like if I could go into a fight with a bit more fat on me, like I would absolutely love it.
Remember when you weighed in at lightweight? Or when you weighed in at featherweight, and everybody's like, "You look like the guy from that, the thing. What was that? The geometry? What? I don't even know what it's called. Like you were so ripped, like you could see all the muscles and shit. Yeah. That thing. They're comparing you to that, and that was funny.
Yeah, feel like absolute dog shit. Do not feel good. Look good. Tick. Feel good. Feel horrible.
Yeah. Well, that shows you don't body shame Jamahal Hill, man, because he might not look like you want him to look, but he probably feels really good heading into that fight. And he went in there and
he's fresh. Like he's fresh. He's confident in himself and his skills. Like he pieced up Santos. I feel he won that fight quite comfortably. I think he's ready I think he's ready. Like he's got not many miles on his body. Like I think he's good to go.
Yeah, and he took some heavy shots, man, and ate those shots and walked forward.
Even in the finishing sequence, Santos fires back like 2-3, hit him clean in the temple, clean in the chin, like, and he was absolutely fine. You know what I mean? So it's just like a feather in his cap. Like he doesn't tend to rely on it so much, which is good. Like for a young fighter, not to like rely on being able to take a punch, but when you have to bite down and eat some shots to get a finish, like he did well. Hats off to him.
Yeah, so when you look at the rankings, you know what I mean, that makes sense for someone like Jamahal Hill. You got like Dominic Reyes is sitting there at number 7. Anthony Smith, I think he's injured, so you probably won't be able to match him up. You got Jan Blachowicz, because if Yuri gets what he wants, he's gonna fight Glover again. And secret word on the street is that fight's going to happen. I'm just saying, I heard some stuff. Okay,
Well,
I
Champ,
heard
like
some
Champ
stuff.
Perks, like he's already come out and called for that fight, and
Yeah.
like the reality of the situation, if the guy with the belt is pushing for a fight, chances are he's going to get it done. Like a lot rides on like who the belt is, gives you an advantage to pick who you want next. Doesn't really make sense for me. Like a finish is a finish in my book. Like no one's ever going to go back and watch the fight. They're just going to see the 10 seconds of you finishing the guy, and you can just move on. So maybe it's just something in himself that he feels like he can do a lot better, or it would have to be that he feels like he really fought poorly and he can do a lot better than that. For him to want to get out there and have a rematch with a guy like that.
Yeah. And come on, guys. You don't have to. I know he's not like Jamahal Hill's not in the best shape, but you don't have to go at his tattoos. You know what I mean? He might have got him when he was too young. Who knows? Don't go at his tattoos, man. They could have been mistakes. Anyways, what is it? Yeah, so even like Jan Blachowicz, you know what I mean? You got Jan Blachowicz that's ahead of him. If he's ready, I say if he wants it, push him to Jan Blachowicz, push him to Dominic Reyes. I think Dominic Reyes would be the better fight.
I think that's a good fight. I think that Dominic Reyes, it's kind of up to him and where he wants to go. I feel like Dominic Reyes, like that's two young prospects, and like obviously Reyes is, they're in like similar situations where they're pretty fresh in the game. That's like a good even matchup. But if he wants a title shot and he wants it ASAP, then Jan Blachowicz is the way to go.
Definitely. What do you think about that matchup? I think, to be honest with you, I'm gonna like if I had early picks on what would happen, I say Jan Blachowicz beats Hill with what we've seen today. I say Jan Blachowicz. Dominic Reyes, that's a better fight. That's a closer fight. Stylistically, a much funner fight to watch, I think. Yeah, I think that's the best option, but we'll see where Dominic Reyes is. We haven't seen him in a while. Yo, Twitter is the wildest shit. You know what I mean? Like some of these accounts that they post up, it's like exclusive UFC fighter Geoff Neal jailed for brutal assault on Vicente Luque. What the hell is that? Why are they putting these things on? This is hilarious, man. Twitter's is the most hilarious place. Yes, undefeated.
Twitter's
most hilarious.
Undefeated, dog.
All right, let's get into it because I know some people are in here watching because they want to know about your post earlier today about MSG, Tony Ferguson. I know you did an interview earlier this week with Submission Radio. Go check that out. But MSG, why MSG? Why is that November?
I believe November 12th in New Zealand, so like 11th in the US.
November 11th in the US. It doesn't matter. November, MSG. Why does that make sense? Tony Ferguson. I know Tony Ferguson. You explained why that makes sense, but why MSG? Why November?
Because the style bender messaged me and said, he said,
"I need you."
No, he said, bro, get that Tony fight on the MSG card, November 12th. So I said, all right. Hold my beer. I'm gonna get this. So like, I've been trying to fight since, what are we now? Like August. I said I wanted to fight in August. Couldn't get me anyone in August, October. I've been trying to fight October. Still like can't get anything across the line. Like November, he's got absolutely no excuses. I don't know who else he thinks he's gonna fight. Like maybe he thinks he can get like a Conor McGregor fight. I don't think he can get a Conor McGregor fight. Like why would Conor McGregor fight him when he can fight? Like I think Chandler probably makes the most sense for Conor McGregor at this stage. Or, just he can wait. Conor's probably just gonna wait and see how all that title picture stuff plays out. So besides Conor McGregor, like who else is there for Tony? Right? Like I think it's the biggest fight that he can get himself.
It is.
And
I think
MSG
so too.
works. Like, you can't get ready in 12 weeks or 13 weeks. Like, just retire then. If you can't get your ass out of bed for 12 weeks, then just piss off and retire. That's
There you
how I
go.
feel about it. Stylebender wants it. I want it. What you say, Tony?
Have you guys ever fought on the same UFC card? Or sorry, you guys have. When was the last time? That was in Australia, right?
We have
When you fought Al?
in
Was
Australia.
that-
I fought L.A. Quinta, and he fought Rob Whittaker the first time when he
That's
got the
right.
knockout. We fought. He was main event, and then I was co-main event on that card. On the biggest. That was the biggest stadium. That was the biggest attendance in UFC history. You know,
Yeah,
there
that
was a
was.
pay-per-view that's main and co-main event. Like, that definitely, like, it just sounds good to me. Madison Square Garden, you know, my friend Israel headlining the card, big pay-per-view. We slide in the co-main, we get it done. You know what I mean?
If any
It
friend,
sounds good.
if any friend can help you get a fight, it's your friend. Israel Adesanya,
I
right?
know, right?
Like any
I
friend,
know, right?
you know? It's good to have friends like that, right? It's like, hey, you know, what are friends for? To, you know, to support each other. And plus, you know, you guys could do camp together. You probably enjoy that the most, right?
We back.
Oh, we back. All right. Did you even hear what I said?
Let's get it done.
Yeah, let's get it done. That's right.
It's
MSG.
not what you know. It's not what you know. It's who you know.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And, you know, friends are always good. Frenemies, man. Bring the show back in some form, some way, somehow. I need you guys to do that. I think a lot of people want you to do that because you guys did that preview last week. You know, it's a good combination. It's a good 1-2 punch. You and Israel. Have you guys been talking about that or what?
What, doing a show?
Yeah, like bringing something back similar.
Like, I just popped over.
Mm.
I just popped over. We had a quick chat. That's about it.
All right,
We'll see.
all right. Okay. What was it? Yeah, man, that sounds good, man. Like you said, it's like a few months away. You know, Israel's on the card. You know, you and Tony.
It just makes sense. Like,
Mhm.
unless he's like, you know what I mean? Unless he's got like an injury or he needs time. Like, I got no idea. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I can't see why. I can't see that. That's a big fight for both of us. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who can get back in the mix? That's what it is. Not both of us. Only one can keep.
Mhm.
Only one can go
Mhm.
forward. Anyone can progress. This is not a fairy tale. You know what I mean? We can fight. We can sort it out. One of us gets back in the mix.
And this narrative that people have about fucking Tony Ferguson that he's washed now, you guys are not watching these fights, man. Because the last fight, I thought he was looking good. I thought he was looking
Yeah,
good. He
but
looked
this
confident,
is this is
smooth.
this this is the sport of you're as good as your last fight. Like that is that's it.
Mhm.
That's it. We're in the sport of you're as good as your last fight. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Like, people they move quickly and they forget. Like, look at today's card. Like, half the card got finished. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
they'll be back. It's the nature of the sport. Like, maybe people that don't live it as a lifestyle. Like, this is like a lifestyle for me. This is something I've dedicated my absolute life to. Um, like, their wins and their losses, and I understand how volatile the sport is, but I see it on like a weekly basis, right? Like, I go to local shows every week. I train fighters, guys. Like, it's just part of the sport. I see guys, you know, on a rare occasion, they'll take concussions or get knocked out in the gym, or they get knocked out on a small amateur show and they're like fighting in shin pads, or You know, it's like their first title fight after they've had 5 fights, 10 fights, and they get knocked out. Like, what are they supposed to do? Quit? Like, what kind of example do you set by just being like, oh, well, I lost one, or I'll pack it in or throw it? Like, it doesn't set like a good example. Like, you need to stick at it and work through it. As long as you're healthy and you take care of the right concussion protocols and you're getting back in there at 100%, I feel like it's just part and parcel with the sport. You know what I mean? If you're a fireman, you're going to get burned every now and then. You understand this? It's part of the sport. You're not going to singe your hand one day as a fireman and then pack it in and become a plumber. Like, it's just, you're a fireman. You expect to get burned on the odd occasion. It's part of it.
So how far has the talks gone? You know, is it just you putting it out there? Because, you know, I think this matchup, you and Tony, we've been talking about it for like the last year.
Yeah, but it's 100%. It's okay. It's 100% on Tony. Like, Tony. I'm in. My management's in. Like,
you're already in camp.
The UFC is in. Like, everyone loves the fight. UFC loves the fight. I love the fight. Stylebender loves the fight. It's 100% on Tony. Like, if this fight doesn't happen, 100% Tony Ferguson doesn't want the fight.
All right, there you go. We don't need to talk no more about that. Let's move on to the co-main event, the welterweight banger between Geoff Neal and Vicente Luque. Vicente was coming off that loss against Bilal Muhammad, and he got out-wrestled, out-grappled in that fight, and then comes in here and gets outstruck by Geoff Neal, something that a lot of people didn't expect. They expected, you know, Vicente Luque to come back with a vengeance. You know what I mean? That's what he usually does. I don't think he's ever lost 2 in a row. And what happened was that Geoff Neal, that left hand, was nasty tonight. What do you think of that left hand by Geoff Neal?
Yeah, like it's just the nature of the game. Just like that to me was fight of the night. I thought this was an incredible fight. Yeah, like Vicente just pressured in a little too close and was just walking onto that straight left hand. Like, obviously southpaw versus orthodox. Like, Geoff Neal was getting on the outside foot, landing his right hook early on, which was opening up the straight left hand. Vicente didn't make the adjustments early enough to be like, oh man, I've been caught by this straight left hand a couple of times that I didn't see it. Maybe I need to take a step back or a half a step back and use my kicking and set up my kicking range. Had he done that, had he started the fight like that, had he, you know, this is how volatile our sport is. Had he came out and gone, I'm gonna start this fight at kicking range. We use my right kick. I'm gonna put it on his left hand, and I'm gonna shut that thing down early on, and I'm gonna make him pressure me forward. If he started with the adjustments he made for the second round in the first round, this is a completely different fight. Then Geoff Neal in the second round has to start pressuring forward and doing what he does. But Vicente Luque is obviously going to be a lot fresher. Like, Geoff Neal started pressuring him, walking him down in the third round, but he'd already dropped him multiple times. He'd already damaged him. Like, he was already a little bit concussed. So he was able to hurt him and get the finish. But, like, it's a sport of constantly adjusting. Geoff Neal just played his cards right tonight and just looked phenomenal doing it. I feel like styles make fights. It's just the way that Vicente matches up with Geoff Neal is just stylistically like leaned in the favor of Geoff Neal tonight.
Yeah, and I saw something ahead of the fight where, you know, like a lot of guys break down film on fights, and I saw something somewhere about how Vicente doesn't do very well against southpaws. And Geoff Neal proved it tonight, man. He went in there and did really well. Yeah, you make a great point about like the volatility of this sport, where like the first round, if Vicente Luque came out a certain way, he would have won that round instead of Geoff Neal winning the first round. And then Geoff Neal took off the second round.
If he came out at kicking range, and did what he did in the second round. Like the whole landscape of the fight then changes. You know what I mean? Like that's the funny thing about the sport is you get one shot at it. You get one crack at it, and then whatever happens in that one crack, everyone thinks that if the fight happened 1,000 times, that would have happened 1,000 times. Like that's just like the nature of the business. But like the reality is of it, it's not. Like if they had fought and they'd put different ingredients in, like 1,000 different things could happen. But that's the reality of it. You get one shot at it, and whatever happens in that one shot, everyone's going to tell you that's what would have happened every other time. That's just the way it is. That guy's better than you. But that's what you sign up for when you take the fight. And I agree to the terms. I love the terms. Like, I love that you beat a guy and people think you would beat that guy every single time you would fight him. Because I know full well as a fighter that that's not the reality of it. Anyone I've ever beaten, if I were to rematch them, I would have to take it very seriously. I would have to adjust. I would have to do something different. And who knows how it would turn out.
Exactly, man. You don't know. You know, all this... what is it? MMA math that people try to, calculate.
MMA math.
Like, he would have won 8 out of 10 fights. You know what I mean? Like, how do you even know that? How do you even fucking put a percentage on that shit? Like, come on. Like, you don't know. The first fight went a certain way. It's like Luque's first fight against Bilal Muhammad. Luque goes in there and knocks him out, like, in 30 seconds. Second fight, Bilal Muhammad goes in there, makes the right adjustments, wrestles him to the ground, and just continues to wrestle him until he wins the fight by decision. Third fight, who knows what's going to happen? It could happen again, or he could get knocked out. It's like this Geoff Neal and Vicente Luque fight. Like you said, if the second fight, the rematch, if it does happen, Luque might come out in kicking distance. And then now you said it earlier, the whole fight is different if they go into the second and third rounds. And I didn't even see it that way, but you're right, man. It's pretty crazy.
That's why it's a wild sport.
It is. What do you do with Geoff Neal? You know, like if you look at the rankings, you know, we always have to look at the rankings, which really don't mean too much, but it does mean something. Geoff Neal is sitting at 13. He just beat Vicente Luque, who's number 6. So basically, Geoff Neal is number 6 now. Who does he fight? I say he fights. Oh, he called out Gilbert Burns. What do you think of that? I think Gilbert Burns was waiting for someone to call him out.
Because Gilbert Burns is always waiting for someone to call him out. That guy will fight absolutely anyone on any amount of notice. I would like him to get the Masvidal fight. I think that's like a big fight for him. That's like a main event fight, like, or pay-per-view fight. Like, I think that's a big fight for him, and that's a good fight for him. And especially after the risk he took with the Comes Up fight, like, that's a fight that he definitely deserves. So I would like to see that. What's Bilal ranked?
Bilal's ranked. Oh, he's top 5. He's number 5.
Well, Bilal come out and he said, "I've never lost to the same person twice." So Geoff Neal like kind of brushed past him and said, "I want to fight Gilbert Burns," because he didn't think that Bilal Muhammad would take the fight. But then for Bilal to come out and say, "I've never lost to the same guy twice," like, well, is he interested in it? So 6 versus 5, that makes sense. Bilal seemed, he called out Masvidal, who, if I was to fight Gilbert Burns or Bilal, like, Gilbert's, he's going to trade punches with you. He's going to put on an exciting performance. Whereas Bilal's probably just going to, like, wrestle Jorge, which he's not. Like, it's not as fun for him. I'm not saying he can't win the fight. I'm just saying it's not as entertaining of a matchup for him. So, yeah, I think that fight could happen. Geoff Neal versus Bilal Muhammad 2, and then we see Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. I think that's those are 2 very solid fights.
Yeah, they are. And okay, UFC is at UFC 281, right, in New York City, Madison Square Garden. This is my prediction from like little like things that I heard on the grapevine and whispers here and there on the streets. This is my prediction. They already announced Israel and the streets are definitely talking. Israel, they already announced him against Alex, right? So that's the main event. I say they're gonna put Glover and Jan Blachowicz on there as the co-main event, and then the third fight is gonna be Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal, 5-round co-main event, and then to kick off the pay-per-view, Dan Hooker versus Tony Ferguson. Hey, ain't that a motherfucking card right there? A pay-per-view card.
That's a wild card. That's a wild card. If
NYC always does it big.
That's a big card.
It's a big card, boy. You know you want to open the pay-per-view on that
It's
one.
true. I was in New York. I went to Madison Square Garden December. Let's go back.
Yeah, let's go back. We're going back. All right, so after before the main and co-main event, they had the Ultimate Fighter finales, right? The heavyweights and I believe the flyweights. Yeah. That was an interesting fight, right? Usman, he was getting worked in the first round, and then like everybody says, one punch changes everything at heavyweight, and Mo, he proved it.
Did you see the scorecards from that fight?
No, I didn't. What did they look like?
Saul D'Amato had Muhammad win the first round.
What? Really?
Like he got outlanded 3-1. Like I was like, this guy, Saul D'Amato, like, what the fuck does this guy watch? Like, what the fuck is this guy watching? He's like, how does he have a fucking job? You know, if I worked at McDonald's and I put the patties on the outside and the bun in the middle, like I insisted that this is the way a burger's made, like I would get fired in one day. You know what I mean? But Saul D'Amato, he keeps making patty on the outside, burger on the inside burgers, and this guy's still got a job. It absolutely blew. I'm not saying like Muhammad got whitewashed, but this is like just another example of the Saul D'Amato just being an absolute fucking numpty. Like I can't get past it.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the judges, whenever the scores come out for a fight or for a round or whatever, and I see them and I think about the round and like think about what I thought who won the round, it makes me doubt what I'm watching because the judges saw something completely different from what I saw, and their scores reflect that. I'm just like doubting myself. Like, am I even watching it? Do I even know the sport? You know, I don't know the sport 100%, but do I even know the sport a little bit with these judges giving, like you said, 3-1 outstruck 3-1, and most of the fight was on the feet. Like, what do you want? What else do you want out of that?
What else do you want? Like no takedowns. He was outstruck like 3-1. Like there's no arguing that. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's absolutely no, like, this is my thing. Like, I don't, like, it's just making people accountable for their decisions. Like that's, I feel like that's all you need to do to correct like the judging, just so they can show how stupid they are. Like, that's really, like, fighters, like, we're accountable, right? Like, after we lose or something happens, like, we have to do interviews. We have to, like, go to the post-fight press conference if we're not going to the hospital and sit down and say what happened wrong. Like, coaches get interviewed. They're accountable. Why are the judges not? Like, open scoring, whatever changes you need to be made. Like, I think they're good. Like, I think open scoring is like a good idea, and that's like a band-aid solution to the problem. But it's just accountability. If judges had to make a 10-second, 20-second, if they had to make it like a 20-second video as to why they scored their fight the way they scored it after each fight, like, obviously they have to write the numbers down and sign their name to it. But a 20-second video being like, okay, I thought Muhammad's punches were like 3 times heavier than the volume that the other guy was landing. Like, so at least we could see some kind of window into the mind of a judge. And so they would have to be accountable and have to justify to their problem. But all they have to do is write their name down. No one can give them shit. The commission protects them. and they're not accountable for their decisions, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, judges are the most protected species in MMA, or just in
No
fighting in
one
general,
sees
right?
them. No one sees them. They get whisked away. You never meet them. No one knows what they look like. Like it's crazy. Like the UFC can't touch them. Like they're protected by the commissions. Like they're crazy. It's crazy
Yeah.
that it's crazy the little accountability that these guys have for their jobs. Like they got no accountability for their decisions. And that's why you see poor judging. That's it.
Yeah, man. With judging is just a whole nother. Hey, you know what's wild about Usman is that he went to the PFL right before getting onto the Ultimate Fighter, and he only had one fight and lost. Right, it was for the $1 million tournament. He got submitted, and he goes on the Ultimate Fighter, wins the show. It's like, and then Rob Wilkinson, the guy that Izzy debuted against, he's about to fight for the $1 million in PFL in his next fight. It's just wild, dude, how like just those positions of switch, they've switched around. And shout out to Rob Wilkinson, man, doing fucking phenomenal for himself in the
Shout out,
PFL.
like like a lot happened between that. Like he's not the same fighter. He's not the same fighter he was when he was in the UFC, because he took some time and he developed. Like, so Rob Wilkinson, I know because he's come over here. Like Israel brought him over to train. Like he's actually been over at City Kickboxing for a couple of camps. Like Rob Wilkinson did that after he fought Israel and lost his UFC contract. Came over, trained with us at City Kickboxing. He went back to like Australia, and he focused on his striking. Like before that, he was predominantly just a cage grappler. Like he would pressure you against the cage, and that's like obviously what Israel was preparing for in his UFC debut. Like Rob used to just pressure guys in cage, like beat them up against the cage. If he could get the takedown, he'd get the takedown. Then obviously after his UFC career, he realized like that's not, like he needed to add more tools to his system. So he went away and he studied a lot on his kickboxing, and he had a lot of kickboxing fights, and he won Australian titles in kickboxing. Like, and he took some time off from MMA, really sharpened his kickboxing skills. Then he came back to MMA and got his PFL contract, and after a couple of wins, now I believe he's on a 5-fight knockout streak. Like, so he learned his lessons, he made good adjustments, and now we're seeing the results of those adjustments. Like, just because a fighter is at a certain stage at a certain time doesn't mean they're stuck there forever. Like, of course they can add new things to their game and work on different aspects of their game. That's what Rob Wilkinson did. Now he's put himself one fight away from $1 million, which I think he's got a very strong chance of getting.
Yeah, for real. Like, I just interviewed him ahead of the last fight, and he's talking about, man, I just won a world title. That's what he wants more than anything. He just wants to be a world champion. And I'm just like, damn, you're lucky because you get to win the world title and get that $1 million on top of that, man. He's just like, $1 million is good. It's all good. But that world title, man. And it just shows you where his mindset is at. And, shout out to him. And hopefully, he performs well in the finals. What do you think about Usman and his future in the heavyweight division, man? He's kind of, could you compare him to anybody? Like, he still has a lot to develop, though. You already could tell.
Nah, like, so obviously, I saw his like PFL career. We've known about him. We got like mutual friends, like Frankie's met him before. We've got a few City Kickboxing friends that are also friends with Muhammad. But like, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. We'll move on. We'll move.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll keep it rolling.
Roll.
But we'll go roll. I'm getting distracted, but we'll keep it rolling. But no, like he definitely is like a lot greener. He comes from like a football background, not from like a martial arts background or a wrestling background. He was a collegiate football star, and then moved into MMA after his college. So he's like a naturally very gifted athlete. He seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He just needs to mix in the skills, and he looked good. He looked like he surrounded himself with some pretty strong coaches there in Denver. And we'll see what can happen next. As long as he keeps adding those skills, I feel like he's got the athletic ability there. He's got the mindset there. He's got can obviously fall back on his brother for like a lot of advice in his career, but he just needs to keep adding those fundamentals and working on those fundamentals. And it's like tonight, like he just used fundamental skills. I feel like if he just added like a strong low kick and a solid jab to his game, that's a pretty dangerous heavyweight. He's obviously got the good power in his hooks, good jab and a low kick, and some powerful hooks. Like makes for a dangerous night out for any heavyweight.
And the hook, the right, was it a left hook or a right? Well, the hook,
the left hook,
yeah, it was the left hook, right? It didn't even look like he even put his body into it. It just looked like he just swung his like arm and just, like it was gonna be like, it was like that, and then just dude went to sleep. That's how much power that guy is holding.
Well, his arms are the size of my waist, so it's like that boy's jacked. He's jacked.
Yeah, he's jacked.
I know jacked. He fought PFL heavyweight. He's fought at light heavyweight, no?
The other guy I know, he was trying to go to light heavyweight, but I don't know about Usman.
I think Muhammad's done some light heavyweight fights.
Let me see. Heavyweight. Nah, just heavyweight. It's all heavyweight. The boys, he's jacked. You know what I mean? Like whenever someone's jacked, people are gonna be like, "Oh, do I see gyno?" You know what I mean? There's all those guys. Do I see gyno? Are those needle marks on his back? Why does he have acne on his? Like all these things come up. Come on, some people can be jacked, man. Tyron Woodley was fucking jacked as a welterweight.
Yeah. Oh, like the easiest way to see it is like changes, like rapid changes in people. Like that's like the biggest thing. Like people see someone that's in like just phenomenal shape, and they're just like, oh man, that guy must be on steroids. But then like you see a picture of the guy when he's like 15 and he's jacked, and you're like, whoa, he's like 30 now. He looks the same. You know what I mean? It's like anything that happens like rapidly. It's like Alice Overeem when he goes from like fighting in Pride at 84 kilos, and then he, as like a man, you know what I mean? As like a mid-20-year-old, and then as a 30-year-old is fighting kickboxing at 120 kilos. Like that's not possible. Like you can't put on 40 kilos of muscle without, and that's like an extreme example of that, and stuff like that. But yeah, like I don't think.
Yeah. Don't hate unless you have like really good evidence or something, solid, because you don't even know these people, man. Why are you going at them like that? Let them celebrate their victories. Jesus Christ. You guys want to fucking talk stupid shit all the time. All right, now, Julianne Miller, the women's flyweight finals. Brogan Anderson. Brogan Walker.
Anderson, I was like, tell me more. I was like, you got some juice there. Brogan Anderson was doing what?
Ultimate Fighter flyweight finals. Brogan Walker, not Anderson. Brogan Walker, someone I know. I've interviewed her from the past. She's from Guam. Usually, if there's fighters out of Guam, usually I interview them. Very nice girls. I think she was a teacher as well. They were on the Ultimate Fighter. I guess they had some beef. Julianne Miller, she's not your typical like shy girl. She's outspoken. I didn't watch the show. I'm just repeating what they said on the broadcast. So don't
I don't watch.
Come at me. I didn't watch the show. But anyways, the fight IQ was the thing that people were pointing at. Like Julianne Miller, she's from 10th Planet, San Diego, which means that she's probably pretty good on the ground in a lot of different positions, right? And Brogan Walker, she would just clinch with her and get taken down. And then that happened in the first round, got dominated in the first round. Second round, exact same thing. She goes in, clinches with her, getting taken down, gets controlled on the ground. And then the third round, she gets the TKO finish. But the exact same thing happened in the third round. They clinched, she took her to the ground. and beat on her.
But what's like
until-
no one's like born with, like everyone always throws that term, like that terminology around it, like fight IQ, like striking IQ. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that? Explain to me what that means. Like that chick that one had 4 fights. I couldn't find my dick after 4 fights. Like this, I didn't know anything after 4 fights. Like it only comes with time. Like no knowledge only comes with time and experience. Like she's only had 4 fights. Like cut her some slack. Like all of them, they're reasonably inexperienced for the spotlight and the level that they've been thrown into. Like it definitely takes time, and you could watch that. You know what I mean? You saw the 2 Ultimate Fighter finales. Like they're guys that are just fighting for the UFC contracts, and they get thrown into a big fight night just before the co-main and like main event of the fights. You know what I mean? But there was like an obvious level change between like those 2 fights and let's say like the Geoff Neal Vicente Luque fight. Like there's obviously like you could see it. Like your average Joe sitting at home, like you can't tell me you couldn't see that they weren't the same things. You know what I mean? Like people make mistakes they just shouldn't be making. So it just takes time. It just takes experience. Like these people have been thrown into I'm not saying over the head. They've been thrown into a big spotlight, and they have to learn and they have to adjust.
They do.
Off
man,
topic, how crazy was Dana White getting all of these kids fucked up? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he did it as a setup. He did like their first week, and then he was like, only one of you's getting a contract. Like, you're all shit. Like, Dana White Contender Series is for people that want to kill or be killed. Like, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then they came out for that second event, like, there was Shannon Ross. There was some crazy fights.
Nuts.
But, like,
Yeah.
all those kids had drank the Kool-Aid. Like, Dana White fired them up. Was just like, go out there and just punch each other in the face. And whoever wins, wins. Like, that's really what they did. Like, they all drank the Kool-Aid. Because it's called the Dana White speech. And we were like, all fighters get it. We all get it. So you weigh in. And then after like your ceremonial weigh-ins, you get what's called like the Dana White speech, where they take just the fighters. None of your coaches can come with you or anything like that. Just the fighters, and they take us into a back room. Most of the time, it's like if you're in like a foreign one, if you're an Australian, it's like Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard, and it's like a lot more chill. Like I've had Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard. Sean just comes in and he's just like, there's 50 grand on the line, you guys want 50 grand, like go out there and put on a show, good luck tomorrow. But like the Dana speech, like I've had the Dana speech a couple of times, like it makes you feel unreal. Like he comes out back and he's just like, he sets a scene, man. Like he comes in prepared. He's just like, you can see the veins on his head and he's going red. And he's just like, you could win fight of the night and you could win knockout of the night. That's 100 grand. What would you do with 100 grand? He's like, if you're watching that TV and you haven't seen fight of the night yet, go out there and change your life. Change your life. Like I've heard like that one, and Mike Perry was in the room when Dana was saying the speech. Mike Perry like gets up, stands on his chair, and starts barking. He's like, oh, oh. And I was like, man, like Dana White gets some of these kids killed. Like I fight like that. I put on wild fights because I like to fight like that. You know what I mean? But I'm not chilled. I don't like lose my composure when I'm doing it. Yeah. You look around, you see all these kids like they're shaking and they're getting fired up, and they go back to their coaches and they can't sleep the night before their fights. You know what I mean? But like it's what Dana White's Contender Series is. It's like that's kill. Everyone knows what it is, right? It's a kill or be killed factory. Like that's what it is. It's like it's a make or break factory for the next level. And I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't me as a 20-year-old, a 24-year-old, I would fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. If Dana White hit me with that speech before my Contender Series debut, I would just go out throwing hooks. I would just go forward and throw hooks, and whatever happened. But me now as a more experienced guy, you know what it is at the top echelon of the sport. You're obviously gonna make a few. I don't think I'd fall for the speech like I used to fall for the speech. But until you get that Dana White speech, you really can't.
You don't even know.
You don't even know. He really fires you up.
Yeah, that's crazy. Was Mike Perry's bark more like a DMX style, or was it like a Rampage Jackson
DMX
style bark?
DMX.
Oh, yeah.
He was already he's a funny guy, bro.
He is. I heard he's funny as shit.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious. He knows what he's doing. He's a smart kid. He's definitely a funny guy. What you see on I follow him. I follow Mike Perry. I think he's hilarious. What you see on the Instagram is actually him in real life. I fought on maybe 2 cards with Mike Perry, but some of the guys you see on Instagram, they'll just be sitting there like this, and then you see these real outspoken Instagram videos, and you're like, man, that's not even what that guy's that's a bit weird. But Mike Perry's out there yeah, man, fuck this. He was arguing with, I can't even remember who he was arguing with. He was just someone said something to him, and he's fuck you, motherfucker, I'm gonna send you back to Bellator. He's I'm gonna send you back to Bellator, bitch. He was saying this. Then pulls out his phone, and he's yo, we out here, out back, UFC, let's go. It's just. And then he did the Dana White speech thing, but you got no phones. No one's allowed to record the Dana White speech. That's why your fans had never seen it.
Yeah.
No phones out back.
Yeah, that's.
But he yeah, it's wild. That's actually him. He's just really that. He's starts barking oh, oh, oh. He starts sweating. There's veins on his head. He bought that. He bought the Dana White speech, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Oh, probably every time he hears it, you know what I mean? He probably loves it. He probably needs that, before he goes and fights. He needs that speech. Yeah, the day
I can't remember. There was a young girl fighter sitting next to me, and he did the speech, and I'd heard it a couple of times before, and I just turned to her and I was don't listen to it, and I walked off.
Yeah,
I was don't listen to
the Contender Series, like you said, it is kill or be killed, and I like how Dana even admitted that. Hey, I don't even give a fuck about your record. I don't give a fuck about your record.
Yeah. We
funny.
know. That's what they're there for. So it's a puppy factory.
It's fucking funny, man. The Contender Series, yeah, it is. It's gladiator school. That's what it is. The UFC fucking built a gladiator school in Vegas. And it's like you said, it's a factory of fucking just pumping them out, just fucking fighter after fighter after fighter.
Make or break. That's really it.
I love it, man. Let's get more of those. Let's get some in Australia. Let's get some in New Zealand. Some in they're doing the road to UFC in Asia. Let's get those popping off a little bit more. We need more of that. We need guys getting more opportunities. Shannon Ross. He got the fucking contract, even though he lost, man. And he had appendicitis or some shit, and the doctors told him not to fight. He fought anyways. He's a savage. Mr. Ross.
Hey, you go out there, you fight like that, you risk your life.
Yeah.
You're going to get a contract, kids.
risk your life. You'll fucking get that contract.
That's a strong message. That's a message we're sending out there. If you are willing to die in a cage, I'm gonna give you a job.
Exactly. Well, I'm pretty sure it's in the contract somewhere.
100% it's in the contract.
Gotta protect each other.
It's in every contract I've ever signed. There's the line that says I accept that this is I might die in this, and I hold the UFC for no responsibility. Like, it's
Yeah.
in the contract, brother.
It's in every contract. You go to the fucking bungee jumping, same thing in the contract, right? Like you're taking the risk. We're not. We're just helping you take the risk.
It's my favorite part of the contract.
Yeah. So there's some fun fights though. Well, they're all finishes, but one fight that stood out was there's some like prospects that I see that are gonna probably be pretty good as the years go. Is like Terrence McKinney, man. Terrence McKinney, he's reckless, just like his name T-Rex, but man, the boy knows how to finish, right? The kid can go in there and find the spots and just do his thing, man. It's like him almost dying has probably helped him unlock this level in his mind to where he's just fearless when he goes in there. And I feel like
Israel, that definitely makes you a bit stronger once you've like accepted your death. But Israel showed me that video. He almost died. The police almost killed him. That was a 100%. I blame the police that confronted him. Why did they tase him? He didn't even do anything.
It seemed like he was just laying there, right? In the video, like he was just laying
sitting
there.
Down.
Yeah,
I feel like New Zealand police would have handled that a lot better. I feel like they would have pulled their car up. They would have put the radio on. They would have chucked in a Bob Marley CD, stir it up. They would have chilled him out. They would have chilled him up, stir it up, and gone, brother, just start dancing. Where do you live? Where do you live? And he would have told them where he lived. They could take him home, and he could go and sit on his own couch. But they just roll up there, just blast him with torches and shoot him with a taser. Of course, he's going to have a heart attack. What's wrong with you?
Fuck, man. Well,
American police are wild.
He had a good performance. Yeah, man, I grew up with American police, and I have stories.
They are wild. New Zealand police are cool. I actually thoroughly enjoy New Zealand police in comparison to like American police. They're very chill.
Yo, the police in Korea are like second-class citizens. Like the citizens are above the police. You know what I mean? Like it's weird because America, the police are above the people. They have more control.
They're like parking wardens.
They are. They're like security guards at buildings. Seriously, like.
Oh man, ridiculous. I'm terrible. I'm terrible to park. I'm terrible to parking warden. That's like one of my favorite things. I'm just I love it. Hey, get a real job, and they're just.
What about those? What about the police in New York? I've seen some videos of police in New York on their break. They're fucking smoking weed. I'm like, what the hell is going on in New York? I'm like, what's going on with intoxicated police? I don't know, man. Police is a whole fucking black hole of fucking conversation right there, especially in America. But yeah, T-Rex, I like what he's doing. He's building up his experience. I think he's taking the right matchups.
He's definitely got like some natural gifts. Like you can say whatever you want, like, oh, he's reckless and he goes for the kill and this and that, but like he's definitely like a super athletic kid, and he's got some very strong very strong parts of his game. Like he gave Drew Dober like an incredibly tough fight. You know, it's just came down to how experienced and how tough Drew Dober is. Like I've trained with Drew. He's got a head. He's got a head like a cinder block. You know what I mean? Like I've never met anyone that can take a punch like Drew Dober can take a punch. So it was like just got rushed into that fight a little bit too quickly. But yeah, he's like a super talented kid. Like well-rounded. He's great on the back. He's obviously very good from his striking range. Yeah, I see some pretty big things. Yeah, like a steady incline in competition. I feel like he's going to make it very far.
All right. Right before him, we had Sam Alvey fight his 9th fight in a row where he hasn't won and was knocked out. You know, I think a lot of people thought that was going to happen to Sam Alvey in this fight. Now, a lot of people attack Sam Alvey. Man, Sam Alvey has a job. You're mad about a dude having a job and continuing to have a job. That's an endless conversation because you think that he doesn't deserve and who decides what people deserve? You don't decide. So leave Sam Alvey alone. Sam's gonna go and he'll probably go fight bare knuckle. To be honest with you, like I could see that in Sam. You know what I mean? Like his style, he likes to sit there and swing hard, and he throws punches mostly, not many like elbows or kicks or anything like that. So I
think he'll be quite. I think he'll be quite comfortable in BKB. Yeah. Like they're throwing the money around. He's got 6 kids. I can't imagine that's. I can't imagine that's very cheap. But yeah, it's quite. Not funny. It's like a little bit disheartening to see the way. Well, like we all know that MMA fans are like a bit cruel, right? Yeah. Like that's not like the biggest secret in the world. They're like MMA fans are a little bit heartless, but especially to a guy like Sam Alvey, and people are like, why does a guy like this still have a job or still getting opportunities or still getting big fights on main cards and stuff like that? And it's like, well, this guy doesn't turn down any fights. Like you can't, it's 2 sides to a coin, right? Like this guy doesn't ever turn down any fights. This guy doesn't care who he's fighting. And when the UFC calls him, he answers the phone and says yes. So if this guy's lost how many fights in a row and he's still getting opportunities, does that not show you to how few and far between that people like Sam Alvey are? Like, how many people do you think the UFC can just call up and they're going to say yes? Like, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a handful out of 500. Probably 5. It's probably 5 out of 500. It's probably Sam Alvey, Jim Miller, Dan Hooker, and 2 more, maybe. But that's about it. That you're going to get the UFC. Hey, you want to fight this guy on this date? Yeah, cool. I'll see you there. You know what I mean? Like the amount of short notice fights that Sam Alvey's jumped into, the amount of grenades that this guy's dived on, like he deserves respect at the end of the day, regardless how the fights go. You can't respect a fighter for taking a short notice fight. You can't respect the fighter for jumping in against heavy competition. You can't respect fighters for taking big risks and then not respect Sam Alvey. Like it's just the complete contradiction of like everything you praise people for. So he loses that instant praise just because it didn't go his way. Like it's just kind of it's kind of funny, and it's kind of a bit like people just really showing their true colors about how they feel about fighters.
Yeah, you make a great point about, you've always heard it in the past about how when the UFC contacts you, if you turn down the first option that they give you, you better take the second option, because if you don't take the second option, they're going to put you in the back of the line and you're not going to get an offer for a long time, depending on, how the division is playing out. Right. And like you said, if they call you and you accept every fight, and just because you accept every fight doesn't mean your opponent accepts the fight either. Right. So you could accept fights and the fight never materialized, but the UFC remembers that. It's just like any other company, right? They remember the people that put in full effort.
It's the same as when like everyone had a normal job. You get called in for overtime. Hey, Jim, can you come in next Sunday? Someone doesn't want to show up. I know it's your day off, but can you come in on your day off? Like, obviously the employee that jumps on that is going to get some leeway like further down the track because they took a lot of bullets. Like that's Sam Alvey. Like the guy shows up not when, he doesn't show up when he's feeling great. He doesn't show up when he's got no injuries. He doesn't show up when he's feeling like $1 million. He doesn't show up because his manager reckons that this is a good stylistic fight. The guy shows up when someone offers him a fight. Like that's just the reality of the situation. You offer Sam Alvey a fight, that guy is going to take it. If the UFC offers him another contract, I guarantee he's going to take it, because that's the kind of person that Sam Alvey is. And it's just the nature of our sport. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a young man's game. You need thick skin if you want to compete in this sport and do well in this sport.
All right. Robinson Rob 77. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, buddy. Now you should be happy. All right. So,
that was it.
that was it. That
Shout
was it.
out.
He wanted a shout out. Just like, shout out to you, buddy. Earlier what is it? We talked about the Ultimate Fighter winners of this season. Earlier in the night, Brian Battle, who won Ultimate Fighter last year at middleweight, dropping down to welterweight for the first time, goes in there against Takashi Sato, a guy that's so much more experienced than him. And
Tough
Brian
guy.
Battle did the damn thing. Head kick, knockout. Beautiful. I love Brian Battle, man. He's a character, and he can fight. And the dude dropped 15 pounds to go to welterweight, and he did it successfully. He said that the weight cut was pretty simple. It was easy. I'm very interested to see what he does. He called out Ian Gary. I think he called out somebody else, but I think Ian Gary would be a good fight for him.
Yeah, that's a good fight. That didn't even. Like the world's his oyster. He's like a young kid. Just came out with like the right place, right time. You know what I mean? Like Sato is like a tough kid, and that doesn't happen. That happens 1 out of 1,000 times. Like we were saying at the start of the show, like just because it happened once doesn't mean he knocks Sato out every single time. Like it's just the reality of the business. Like he threw the two. Sato thought that they were in punching range, slipped outside the two, and ran into the kick. Like he slipped outside the right hand, and that's like a fundamental move, and that generally is a move that takes like a long time to set up. Like generally you have to connect with your right hand a few times, like obviously make the guy slip, and then you realize that he's slipping out of the way of your right hand, and you bring up the kick. He just came out and he pressed the right buttons at the start of the game, and and got the win in like super quick fashion. So there's not like too much you can say about that fight besides like outstanding performance, and he deserves whatever he gets out of it.
For real, he does, man. Brian Battle, man, I think he has a lot of potential, like I said. And man, it was beautiful. Like you said, like I've been learning that a little bit, you know what I mean? Like the slipping stuff, and just slipping is hard. Just to be able to time that shit and then to lean to the proper side, because I was slipped to the wrong side to get punched in the face and shit. Like, I'm being truthful about like what I experienced, because I'm not a fighter, but I'm saying like if you go to a fucking class, even just boxing, and try to learn how to slip punches and see if you slip the right way, you'll slip the wrong way a few times to get clipped.
Yeah, like that's the guy Santos didn't even slip the wrong way. It's not
Exactly.
it's not like he made a big mistake. Like he thought a punch was coming and he slipped it perfectly. He just slipped it into a kick. Like it's just funny. Yeah, go to a boxing class, get a guy to throw punches at you, and you try to slip the punches. And then you add kicks into the mix. Like it's just a whole different can of worms.
It is, man. And it was a great performance. Brian, do your thing, and hopefully I'll be speaking with him pretty soon. That's about it, man. That's all the action I want to cover. I just wanted to get your reaction to someone was asking me in the chat to ask you about the recent video that just came out. Let me pull it up, and you can watch it. I'm pretty sure you already seen it, but I just want to put it up there so you can watch it and then react to it. So here we go. So it's Jon Jones. He puts out this clip on IG of him at heavyweight, bare knuckle pad session. What is he trying to tell us? What do you see in this?
Nah, he's with Six Gun Gibson. That's a good coach. That's a very good coach. That's one of the best striking coaches out there. I don't know what he's doing with it just looks cool. Maybe doing a bare knuckle, maybe. It just looks cool. I highly doubt he's gonna be KFC or anything like that. But yeah, like the guy just needs to make his debut at heavyweight. Like you can't just keep teasing it for that long. You know what I mean? Like it gets a bit old. Like is he retired or it's hard to tell at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he does look bigger, much bigger than he did at light heavyweight. Like, look at his biceps.
Yeah. Like
They're
he's
pretty
definitely
big.
not going. He's definitely not going back to light heavyweight. But yeah,
No.
like it's just yeah, it's time for him to just bite the bullet and take a fight, I guess.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Is he gonna go back to who's he gonna fight? You know
I
what I mean? Like,
actually don't give a
fuck.
flying
Yeah.
fuck about Jon Jones.
I just want to give you credit for something. You did predict UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi, Islam versus Charles Oliveira. You
When did
did
I
predict that.
predict? When did
You
I
predicted
predict
that
that?
fight, like that day when that fight was over. You said that shit was gonna
Man,
happen in Abu Dhabi, and
I
that shit's
wish
happening.
I had Saudi princes sucking my balls and paying people to get the right fights that I want. Like I wish, but I don't. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Wrong
man.
religion.
Yeah, rubbing your elbows with the wrong people, right? Like, or not the right people, so to say.
I'm not in the right circle. Mate, my circle, I don't have any uh billionaire oil sheiks in my circle. But if I did,
Exactly.
I'd be getting title fights in my backyard.
Of course, man. Like, I think I don't know. I don't know if people realize this, but there's so much that goes into like putting on shows in like this country or this city. You know what I mean? Things have to line up perfectly. Money has to be spent and invested. And most of the time, it's not the UFC. From what I know,
They're very smart businessmen.
very
They're
smart.
not. The UFC is not spending a cent to put that title fight on. Let me just let me just I'm just taking a guess
Yeah.
ish. But
Yeah.
the UFC is not spending a dime to put on Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. Word on the street was that Fight Island was a beautiful situation for the UFC. A beautiful
Oh,
situation.
without a doubt. Without
Yeah.
a doubt.
And for the fighters, though, you guys don't have to pay tax in Abu Dhabi if you fight, right?
We have
Is that
to
true?
pay tax when you have to
Go
pay
back home.
tax. You don't have to pay tax so if you fight, if I fight in America, then I pay tax in America, but they give me a tax certificate. So then I don't have you obviously don't have to pay
Yeah.
tax twice. You know what I mean? But obviously, if you have to pay tax once, then you have to pay tax where you're from.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
when
Oh,
I'm in
okay.
New Zealand,
It's pretty high.
fuck New Zealand, very high.
Yeah, man. That shit fucks everybody up.
Tax will get you.
Yeah.
Tax will get you.
Yeah. All
Pay the
right.
tax, man. Though death and taxes unavoidable.
Exactly. And you will definitely go to prison for that. That's without a doubt. Of evading taxes. Next week, the main event. Let's talk about that and shut the show down. Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz still kicking around, 55 years old. No, he's not 55, but he's been around for a long time. He's still really good. He's still competing at the highest level, even though he's gone through crazy surgeries. Just impressive, man. The type of career he's had. But Marlon Vera, man, right now he seems like he's got that it factor. Like he's got something like in motion. His momentum is crazy. He's performing really well. He has big wins against big names. Now it's like, can he take out Dominic Cruz, a former champ? What do you think?
Yeah, it's like big questions coming into this fight, right? Like, I feel like we know what Vera brings to the table. Like, that's the danger of being Dominic Cruz, is that you've been around so long that people have been training to beat you for years and years and years and years. Like, everyone, like, I'm sure Marlon Vera spent hours and hours before this fight was even conceived about how he was going to fight Dominic Cruz or how he was going to beat Dominic Cruz. It's just part and parcel with being at the top echelon for a long period of time, is that everyone knows your game and your cards in and out. And that's kind of the position that Dominic Cruz is in. I feel like the game is evolving, like footwork's evolving, and like his style of footwork needs adjustment. He's been caught out with that kind of, like, he got caught out by Henry Cejudo, who kind of found the answer. You step in a little deeper, you get him to react to your right hand, he pulls that leg back, and you can catch him with the low kick. Like, as he pulls the low kick and he's got his feet together, like, there's evidence on how to break down and beat Dominic Cruz. Like, what we need to see from Dominic Cruz is what I think he's capable of, is adjusting. I feel like he's a very smart man. He's one of the smartest fighters in mixed martial arts. And he just needs to show it in this fight. He needs to show a new feather in it after all this time. He needs to show a new feather in his cap, and he needs to show that he's continuing to evolve with the sport, which I feel like he's very capable of. And I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yeah, like you said, lots of questions, and those questions will be answered. Marlon Vera, is he ready for that top echelons, right? That title contendership. Is he ready for that? This fight will tell us if he's ready to face the Peter Yans, the Aljamain Sterlings, right? Is he ready to face those guys? And
Sean O'Malley's getting Peter Yan, and he made like pretty quick work of him. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny how it plays out.
Yeah, it is. It is. But then if Dominic Cruz goes in there and finishes Vera or beats him convincingly, then now Dominic Cruz is back in the mix, and he's gonna fight the winner of Sean O'Malley and Peter Yan. But let's talk about that. Were you like, what? Were you thinking, like, I was thinking when they put that fight together, I was like, what? I was like, but it's a good matchup. It's a good fight, man. I like it. I like that Sean O'Malley's, facing the fire now. Like, he's gonna jump, but there's a lot of time between.
I like the fight. It's just, like, it's pretty cool. Like, he's I definitely respect how, like, Sean O'Malley plays the game. Like, he plays it very smart. I feel like he's definitely got the skills. He's got the skills to mix it up there with Peter Yan. Like, and I'm excited to see. I think, like, it's a good stylistic matchup. I feel like predominantly it's gonna be a striking fight. It's just funny how it came about, like, and like, he wasn't trying to insult Pedro Munoz, like, after their fight or anything like that. Like, I just saw, you could see what he was doing. The fans responded like it was a win. It was obviously like the eye poke and it ended, but it's like Sean O'Malley wasn't going to be. I genuinely don't feel like he was trying to be disrespectful towards Pedro Munoz, but he just understands how the fans think and how they react to certain things. And so he exploited that. He's a smart young kid. He exploited how the fans. So if he come out and he said Pedro Munoz was looking for a way out and he took the eye poke as a way out, he knows that 99% of Sean O'Malley fans are going to go, yeah, Pedro Munoz was looking for a way out. Sean O'Malley was going to win that fight anyway. So he gets, like, the payoff of that. So it's just, he's a smart young kid, and I definitely respect it.
Yeah, I really respect it. I'm really looking forward to seeing that matchup. Sean O'Malley, man, jumping into the fire, with all the people just saying that he was avoiding these fights. Now he's going to go head first. But there's still a lot of time between now and that fight. So hopefully it stays together and nothing happens. No one slips on a banana peel or, stubs their toe on the coffee table or something.
I've actually heard, like, local shows slipped in the shower on fight day 3 times.
Jesus Christ! You think after the first time?
Yeah, slipped. No, I've heard it 3 different times. Slipped over in the shower, can't fight.
Fuck. That must be
nothing
nice
will
shower.
Nothing will ever shock me.
Yeah, for real. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back when we're back. Ask Dan when's his next fight. We talked about that earlier. We rind that shit. And if you guys got any comments, questions, or whatever, leave it in there, and we'll get to it next week. That's something that I'll probably do. If you guys have questions, just leave in the comments, and we'll get to those if we don't get them, during the show. Be safe out there, and Dan, let's get this fight. UFC 281.
November, baby. The